start. We just started. Hey, Shabbat Shalom. How's it going? Nice to see you all. Well, we are going into a holiday weekend, of course, and a big weekend also for the Jewish people with the news coming out of the Middle East. And it's just hopefully this weekend people are going to be reunited with their families. And so it's our hope and prayer that people will be able to be joyful again soon in the land of Israel. And so how about we start off by singing how good it is for us to be together. Hine Matov. Hine Matov Umana Shevet Ahim Gam Yahad. Hine Matov Umanayim Shevet Ahim Gam Yahad. Hine Matov Shevet Ahim Gam Yahad. Hine Matov Shevet Ahim Gam Yahad. Hine Matov Umanayim Shevet Ahim Gam Yahad. Let's turn to page 142 and sing together with Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem LeShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni LeShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We are going to turn and net back a couple pages to page 138 and greet Shabbat with the same joy we would have if we were at a wedding. Let's join together for Lechado D. We'll do verses 1, 2, 5, and 9.
Lechado di likra kala, Bnei Shabbat lekabela. Lechado di likra kala, Bnei Shabbat lekabela. Shamor v'zahor b'diburecha, Hishmianu el hamiuchad Adonai echad, U'shemo echad l'shemo tiferet v'litila. Lechado di likra kala, Bnei Shabbat lekabela. Lechado di likra kala, Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki hi mekor haberacha merosh mikedem. Nesucha sof maaseh b'machshava tchila. Lechado di likra kala, Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechado di likra kala, Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, ki באורך קומי אורי 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי לקרא קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקרא קלה פני שבת נקבלה.
We rise and face the entrance to greet Shabbat.
בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצולתו אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה לך דודי לקרא קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקרא קלה פני שבת נקבלה.
You may be seated. I see, by the way, Cantor, that your better half is here this evening. I know sometimes
my left or my right
as
half? Which half is that? My
I
top or my bottom half?
know sometimes as a
My
rabbi,
front or my back half?
I say controversial things, so it's nice to on Shabbat say something that's not controversial that everybody agrees on. Of that, your better half, Amanda, is here. And Amanda, would you do us the honors of lighting our Shabbos candles for us? It's great to have you here. And
Hello. Shabbat shalom.
There you go. I have to go over it one more time because it's a short wick. Ooh, rather. There we go. Let's join together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
Thank you, Amanda. Shabbat Shalom. You do that every week for every person we call up to light the candles, Cantor. Mr. Warm and Fuzzy here. We are
Yeah.
on page...
Fuzzy for sure.
Exactly. Page 146. I'll invite you to rise in body or spirit for our call to worship the Baruch Hu.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
You may be seated. We are on page 149 at the top of the page. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows.
ומעביר יום ומהביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני,
Whoa.
המעריב והרביב.
150.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ויורך ימינו ויורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
Page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, וייתן קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם.
Amen. As we go into this weekend, I know that a couple things that we are commemorating is, of course, the legacy of Dr. King, who was inspired as a Christian minister and a devout Christian from the story of the Exodus of Egypt and the freedom of the Israelites to be themselves and to have their full realization of that they had human dignity. And at the same time, we anxiously anticipate and wait for this upcoming Monday when the first of the hostages from Gaza are going to be hopefully returned to Israel and hopefully returned alive to be able to be free once again too. And so this story of redemption, this story of freedom, and freedom from being oppressed, freedom from being held captive, it's sadly one that's still to this day very necessary and very much a hope for people. And so as we go into the Mi Chamocha and into this holiday weekend and into this new chapter of this conflict hopefully being closer to being resolved, let us all also be hopeful and full of prayer that one day everyone can sing the song of freedom just as we did when we left Egypt. Page 158, Mi Chamocha.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh nora tehilot o sefele malchutecha uvanecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe uMiriam zeli anu ve'yameru Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Page 160.
Let's look at page 161 actually.
Let's do that. I like that one even better.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Join me. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu ve'hamidenu lechaim Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
Turn to page 162.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם אותי לעולם אותי לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש Shabbat, vayinafash Shabbat, vayinafash, v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Page 164. I'll invite you to rise in body or in spirit for the Amidah.
Adonai שפתי תפתח, הופיע כי תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah. האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר מושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם לעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue silently, page 172 through 180, or you can use this as an opportunity for your own prayers and reflections, and when you're finished, you may be seated.
free to continue your private meditations at your own pace, or you can join me on page 180 at the bottom of the page. Osi shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen.
We are going to turn to our prayer for healing of the mind, body, and spirit, and a prayer for those who are also in a period of recovery. We are on page 371 for the Mishaberach.
Mishaberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
This week we think of these members of our community and their loved ones who could use a prayer for healing. Gitalea bat Mashahana, Myron Yisrael ben Rachel, Baruch ben Sarah, Itkafega bat Gittel, Gila Chaya bat Mordechai Lev v'Gila Leah, Tova Chava bat Chaya Rochel, Tzvi ben Benjamin, Rachel Liba bat Moshe Menachem Mendel v'Gittel, Gittel bat Bela, Rivka bat Mordechai, Sarah Bell, Lois Dobrin, Angela Eno, good to see you, and Martin Goffin, Fran Lappin, Tanner Light, Megan Magleby, Penny Spector, Adina Stern, nice to see you. We are always praying for your health as well. Michael Winston, and Judy Wolf. And if you have a name to share, when I look in your direction, please feel free to share with us. Go ahead, Carolyn.
Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Thank you, Cantor. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Wow. As I mentioned, this weekend is Martin Luther King Jr. Weekend. And I'm thinking about this weekend is a town called Rock Island. You've heard me talk about this town because I have a close tie to it. And this is not a particularly remarkable town. Dare I say it's kind of a boring town, in my opinion. It is located right on the Mississippi River on the border with Iowa. Cross a bridge or across the Mississippi River and you're in Iowa. And Rock Island, Illinois, as some of you know, is significant to me because it's where my father is from. And when my family on my father's side came to America, they got sent on a train to Rock Island, Illinois, and that's where their journey in America really began. And if you go to the Hebrew cemetery of Rock Island, there you'll find the graves of my grandparents, Louis and Ruth Spector, of blessed memory. And I never met them. My grandfather died when my dad was 16, and my grandmother died when he was 23. He lost his parents very young. And I've heard a lot about them. And they actually, peripherally, they knew Martin Luther King Jr. because they were civil rights activists. And they would organize in their area rallies for civil rights and coordinate with Martin Luther King Jr. and the people who worked in the civil rights movement. And in the 40s, my grandmother, in 50s, my grandmother would do puppet shows in elementary schools about why segregation was bad. Very, very proud of that part of my family. And maybe some of you have heard me say this about my grandparents before. I talk about it often. It's their legacy is a huge reason I went into the rabbinate. What I don't talk about so much is there's another cemetery in Rock Island, Illinois, that's rather famous. And that is the largest Confederate cemetery in the United States outside of the South. And I have an interesting connection to that cemetery, because while my grandfather and grandmother and my great-grandfather and great-grandmother are buried in the Hebrew cemetery, my father will one day be buried there. From the other side of my family, it just so happens that my great-great-great-grandfather, Elijah Pitts, is buried in Rock Island's Confederate cemetery. And my great-great-great-grandfather was a Confederate soldier who was killed during the Civil War fighting for, among other things, the preservation of slavery in the southern states of America. And I don't talk about that quite as often as I talk about my grandparents' legacy, because that is a part of my legacy, family history, that I'm not quite as proud of as the other part. And yet, it's important to know about it. And when we look at this week's Torah portion, Shemot, what we see is what happens when we have the failure of education. Of lack of education, I should say. Now, I've been to Egypt, and what is amazing in Egypt, particularly ancient Egypt, is the unbelievable preservation of records in Egypt. There's so many records, and there's that they know so much about ancient Egypt, who reigned, when they reigned, what happened under their reign. And yet, in the Torah, what we read about is how a Pharaoh arose who did not know Joseph. And now, it's not just saying that he didn't know Joseph because Joseph died before his time, so they never got to meet. I never got to meet my grandparents. But rather, it was that he didn't know of Joseph. He didn't know what Joseph had done to save Egypt and help the people of Egypt. And because of this ignorance and lack of education, this Pharaoh, he persecuted the Israelite people and didn't appreciate what they had contributed to the well-being of his own country. And what ended up coming of this was not just disaster for our people, but ultimately disaster for Egypt as well, as eventually the plagues were rained down on Egypt and created chaos and devastation throughout the land. And I wonder, had this Pharaoh got in himself education that he definitely had access to, could all of that suffering and misery, including that of his own people, been prevented? And we see this time and again. There's a famous saying that those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it. And it's so important that we study history. I regularly talk with folks who don't put their kids in Hebrew school or whatever, and their children grow up not knowing anything about what it means to be Jewish or what that is. I know we celebrate Hanukkah and get latkes, but other than that, I don't know anything about Judaism. And I hear this sometimes. And I even heard a woman once tell me, whose grandmother was a Holocaust survivor, Judaism has brought nothing good to my family. They went through the Holocaust, so why should I pass that on to my children? Which, to me, sounds a lot like blaming the victim. But I told this mother, I said, I'm not going to tell you how to parent. It's up to you. But it's important that your children know at least where they came from. It's important that you tell them who they are and that they know about it. However you decide to do that is up to you. But don't let what your family went through be for nothing by helping those who wanted to erase Jews from history posthumously achieve their goal. And what we've seen too throughout this conflict over the last year and a half is on both sides an ignorance at times of narrative of another person and ignorance of history. The number of people, woke people I've talked to, who are vehemently anti-Israel and know nothing about the Gaza disengagement is astounding to me. Or don't know which river, which sea, or the Jewish history of that land and Jewish connection to that land, as well as the folks who don't know about the Palestinian connection to that land. It's remarkable, especially because we're living in a time when in our pockets we have a little thing that has every single bit of information that's ever existed in world history at our fingertips. That people choose not to study history and choose to strongly hate without educating themselves. And so, what we can learn from this week's Torah portion, and what we can learn going into Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, is that it's so important that we study history. It's important that we study our own history. It's important we study the history of others. But it's important, too, that we study and analyze the difficult parts of our history. Because we're living in a time in our country, and we're going to see this even more heavily debated, I think, in the coming years, where people are saying, why should we study parts of our history that make us feel badly about ourselves? Like I said, it would give me a lot more joy to just be able to tell you about my grandparents who were the civil rights activists rather than my great-great-great-grandfather who gave his life in defense of slavery, who, in my opinion, was a traitor to this country trying to cede from it. That's not a part of my history I'm proud of, my family's history that I'm particularly proud of. But it's important to know about it so that we can be better and that we don't repeat those same mistakes. Because ultimately, when we shy away from studying our own history, then we fall into the same trap as Pharaoh, where we don't know the good of our history, and so we can't embrace that and repeat that in order repeat the welcoming of the Israelite people and seeing the value of the Israelite people like his ancestors did, which would have benefited all of them. But also, we don't learn about the mistakes of our past generations that we can prevent today in making our world a holier place. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Let me make some announcements. Thanks, Cantor, for beautifully leading us this evening. And in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, our office will be closed. I remember when I was a teenager, my rabbi told me, this is not a day off for you. Do something to advocate for someone. Write a letter to your congressman about an issue you care about. So do that, please. Do advocate for someone, and remember why we have that day off. But this Sunday, we can do something fun. You can join our Kolami Outdoors group for a ski day at Solitude. You can find info on our website about this. And on Tuesday, we have our Rosh Chodesh women's group has a New Year yoga and mindfulness event. It's good, I guess, to be mindful and healthy in this new year.
And yogi.
And pardon?
And yogi.
And yogi. Sounds good.
Yogi.
Okie dokie yogi. There you go. So next Shabbat, January 24th, join us for dinner at the shul in Shabbat services. Services will begin at 6:30, followed by a flavorful Peruvian dinner and dessert. That was a big hit last year. We now have, I think, about 3 or 4 Peruvian congregants. See one back here. Hi, Julia. And a growing South American population at our synagogue that I just love. And they bring so much joy, enthusiasm, kindness, but also wonderful food. So come join us for that great dinner. Other events to look forward to. Cantor Song Circle, which has been a big hit, is going to be on January 25th. The Col Amigos Men's Club is going to have its kickoff event for the first time in a few years with donuts and dads. Non-dads are invited too. I got enough kids, I'll toss you one if you need one. Anyways, and so Donuts and Dads will be held on February 2nd at 9 a.m. Groundhog Day, so I guess that means we'll do it every day. Donuts and Dads.
Just repeat it.
Yeah, invite Bill Murray and stuff. Some of you don't get that reference. You're too young.
Dads and
Yeah.
donuts and
There you go. The religious schools Jewish Camp Fair is also going to be that same day, February 2nd at noon. We're offering, again, scholarships to first and second time campers. Go to Jewish Summer Camp. Our pre-Purim Bake and Sip is on February 6th, and their next Hot Shabbat is February 7th. And our musical Shabbat Shirah Family Shabbat dinner and service will be on February 7th. And Purim is coming up in the evening on March 13th. We're looking for people to help with our Purim committee to make the holiday a big success. Reach out to Galit Livnei to help out. Cantor, have we picked a Purim spiel yet?
We have, but I am not ready to announce it.
We're not ready to announce it, but if you are interested in being in the Purim spiel, which is always a lot of fun, come talk to Cantor.
Talk to me.
Come talk to Cantor. Be in the Purim spiel. It's fun for all ages. You know, my daughter Esther is her real name, was Esther when she was like 10 months old. So there you go. It's kind of fun. No, wait, no, that was when I was on family leave, and she was 6 weeks old. Holy smokes, yeah. So she was in the beauty pageant. Yeah, that's about it. So thank you for being here and all your support, and thanks to our security for being here as well. We're going, and I see a few people I don't know. I don't know you, or we don't know each other well yet, would you mind just sticking around for a couple minutes afterwards so I can introduce myself to you? I always like meeting new folks. Sometimes people come and visit, and then I want to say hi to them afterwards, and they dart out the door, and they're like, well, that rabbi didn't even say hi to me. What a jerk. And I'm like, I wanted to. You ran away from me. So stick around for a couple minutes. I'd love to say hi to you and at least introduce myself. We are going to turn to the Aleinu as we go into the concluding part of our service. Bottom of page 586, I'll invite you to rise in body or in spirit.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא וראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. This time, we are going to think of those whom death has recently taken from us, and those who have died in this season in years past, and those who we draw into our hearts as we remember them. If you hear the name of a loved one, you're invited right upon hearing their name. In the period of Shloshim, the 30-day period of mourning, we remember Shirley Berman, mother of Danny Berman, Vladimir Weisberg, a local Jewish person laid to rest in our cemetery, and Susan Sway, sister of Neil Kaplan. And Neil, I see you here. I know you're in the period of Shiva for your sister. Our condolences to you. May her memory be for a blessing, and please let us know how we can support you. And this week we commemorate the following Yortzites, anniversary of the passing of these loved ones. Lily Mildred Goldstein Anisman, Stephanie Hinian, Morris Arnovitz, Galina Bach, Abe Baum, Stanley Block, Daniel Bornstein, Joe Kahn, Max Khaled, Eileen Clark, Walter Daniel, Joe Doctorman, Geraldine Jerry Dupler, Edward Eisen, Isidore Eisen, Aaron Feuerstein, Valerie Fields, Harry J. Finke, Bertha Douglas Frank, Naomi Franklin, Nicholas Harrison, Stephanie Hinian, Eugene Hertz, Elizabeth Muriel Hillis, Marlene Shulak Isaacson, Irving Meyer Isaacson, Leo Jacobson, Gabrielle Gabby Janov, Jack Kapp, Saul Korewa, Howard Lerner, Alex Levine, Dina Lenato, Bonnie Lee May, Raymond Pedersen, Barry Lynn Pepper, Marge Rokich, Louis Rosenthal, Molly Saperstein, Ginda Sasankin, Pauline Schroeder, Jean Schulman, Robert Siegel, Ruth Smith, Raul Soria Sr., Rudia Starodubsky, Louis D. Tannenbaum, Magda Weidenfeld, Ellen Whitting, Pauline Gus Wolk, Charles K. Woolner, and Haratina Zabirnia. And if you have a name to add, while looking in your direction, please share with us. And if you're watching on our live stream, I'll invite you to share a name as well. We're on page 598. May their memories be for a blessing. If you are in mourning, or it's your tradition, do so. You are invited to rise. Yikadav Yikadav Shemer Ba.
Amen.
Ve'alma divrachir tevi imlich malchute. V'chaychon uv'yamichon uv'chayedechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uv'yizman kari v'imru.
Amen.
Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevrach Le'olam Omei Omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmid Kusha. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'ne'emata. Da'am yiram be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba min Shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen.
Amen.
Osei shalom b'mromav. Uya say shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. May a source of peace and peace to all who are mourning comfort the bereaved among us. Again we say, Amen. Here, do we have a closing song?
let's close. How about we close with Ein Keloheinu on page 626?
Great one.
Change it up.
Let's do it. 626.
Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Mi Eloheinu, Mi Adonenu, Mi Kemalkeinu, Mi Kemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu.
I'll invite you to rise for Kiddush, page 122. Finished service quickly today. The rabbi kept his sermon short. That was good. Thanks, Rabbi.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Thanks, Rabbi. You actually thought of other folks. That was nice. All right. Page 122. You're invited to rise in body or in spirit.
ויהי רבעי בוקר יום השישי, ויכולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויכול אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו, אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות סברי.
לחיים.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן.
אמן.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה וראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. L'chaim. Let's see. We have here, made by our buddy Moshe, a wonderful looking challah. And we will take this out here. Is that one Moshe's challah? That looks a little different.
Yeah, different.
Looks a little different. Smells like it's challah. Smells good. All right. Let's join together.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, המוציא לחם מן הארץ. Amen.
Te'avon, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Please come grab some challah. Tastes different, too. I mean, I don't know if that is one. It's challah.
I think it's also.